Hiya, welcome back to my channel. I'm Minerva, and today we're going to be talking about autism and violence. Obviously, autistic people are at risk of being victims of violence, as well as presenting with violence. This video is going to be looking at autistic people who present with violence. So I want to start off by saying that violent behavior, hitting, kicking, biting, punching, threatening, cursing, throwing objects, putting holes in the wall, all of it is unacceptable. Autism is not an excuse for violence. No additional needs, no disability, no difference is an excuse for harming someone or for threatening harm on someone. Autistic people are deserving of understanding and compassion, but that doesn't mean that their parents, their siblings, their community, their teachers, the support staff have to endure being terrorized. If you are the parent of an autistic child who is acting violently, you may have a complex mix of feelings. You can love your child and still be afraid of them. And if your child is being violent, towards you, towards their siblings, towards their grandparents, towards the family pet, towards their classmates or support staff, you're possibly dealing with the feelings that are not only stemming from what's happening in your home, but what's happening in other places that your child goes as well. You might be embarrassed or ashamed, especially if this kind of behavior erupts in public or in schools, and you're getting phone calls from schools all the time saying you gotta come pick up your child because they've just kicked off. Maybe you have injuries that people can see, maybe they're on your face or your hands, and you're thinking, people are looking at my child and looking at me, maybe they're thinking I'm a bad parent. And you're not a bad parent, but you might be feeling very guilty because you don't have all the answers and you don't know what's best and you just want some help. You're a parent in a bad situation, but you're not a bad parent. You're probably physically, mentally, and emotionally exhausted. You've probably looked for help and asked for help. Maybe you've had a bit of help. I find that some parents even feel a sense of paralysis. Maybe they hear things or they want to try something new, but they're almost terrified to try something new because what if it doesn't work? Or how do you put something new in when we have a routine of walking on eggshells? Your child is going to spend the majority of their life as an adult. A boy will grow up to become likely stronger and taller than you. A girl might not grow up to be so tall, but there's nothing stopping her from throwing a dangerous object. There's nothing stopping her from raising fists. You do not want to spend decades of your life being terrorized by your child, and you don't want to watch someone else, your other child, or perhaps if your autistic child does grow up, move out of the house and have a partner or a family of their own, you don't want to watch them being terrorized either. You also don't want your child presenting with this violence against someone who will certainly not tolerate it. There have been instances where I've worked in schools where an autistic child who has presented with violence has tried that with an older student or with someone else with autism, and it doesn't end well for them. Because especially if they're not used to someone fighting back, they just end up hurt. One thing that we do have to begin with, unfortunately, is that if there is violence in your house, the child will copy that. All children will likely copy that. It doesn't have to be an autistic child. Even in your house, if perhaps between you and your partner or your spouse, perhaps you are a bit more aggressive with each other. Maybe you are slightly a bit more. I have known couples who just conflict is how they communicate, not violent conflict, but just a bit more argy-bargy towards each other. But that's how they understand each other's how their relationship works, and they know that they're still solid, things are still good between them, even if there is a bit of conflict. If an autistic child sees that, they might replicate that without understanding the social undertones of, this is what makes this particular relationship work. So if there is something like that going on in your house, if you are in a violent household and your autistic child is replicating that violence, you need to get out. You need to make sure you're safe and your children are safe, and you need to get them away from this kind of behavior because you don't want this behavior repeating itself. If you have no idea how to get out, wherever you're living, there will be women's charities, there will be areas that you can be signposted to for support, for advice. It's such an individual situation. Making a plan, getting a bit of money set aside, identifying safe places to go to, whether you know someone there or not, whether you can establish contact, might be what makes all the difference in your life. If you're just a couple who perhaps conflict is part of your language, how you communicate with each other, and perhaps your autistic child is replicating this, whether that's time for a conversation between the two of you, you and your partner, about, okay, we manage this better or do this without the child seeing, or have a direct conversation with your child and go, look, I know you've seen us maybe argue back and forth or call each other names or whatever it is, but there's something that you're missing here and we need to discuss that with you. The pure and simple message is if your autistic child is displaying aggression or violence, you need to nip that in the bud as early as possible, as young as possible. I would also say, specifically to the fathers of autistic children, if your autistic child is being aggressive or violent, it might be you who is coming between that violence and your wife or your other children. You're their shield, and that is good and honourable, but you are a lot more than a shield, and it's not okay for you to be hurt, especially not in your own home. And you are putting yourself at serious risk, especially if you're the one the child associates most with. You can take the violence in inverted commas. Your son may be a child right now or a teenager, but he will be in his prime one day and you will be slowing down. And it doesn't matter if he never goes outside the house. It doesn't matter if he never exercises, because he will have youth and strength on his side in a way that you will start to lose. And that is dangerous for you. And if you have a daughter, don't make an excuse for a daughter. Do not make an excuse for a daughter. You might say to yourself, well, look, she's shorter, she's like her mommy, she's going to be smaller than me. She's a girl, she's going to be a bit weaker. She can still throw things. She can. And all it takes is for her to throw the wrong thing at your head. And you have a serious injury. Never even mind just throwing things. I mean, if you're older or if you fall ill or if you're in an accident and she decides she wants to hit you, I mean, someone hitting you is going to hurt. She shouldn't be putting her hands on anybody. And she shouldn't be putting her hands on you just because you're her dad. Parents have spoken to me and they've called the police on their child, and even that doesn't push you to the top of any waiting list. And a lot of the help, from what I can gather, it seems to be more reactive. So like something's already happened. And my opinion is, like, for this kind of thing, it really needs to be more proactive or even preventative. In an ideal world, I could wave a magic wand and whatever your individual situation is, whatever is facing your family is facing, whatever you are facing, would just be solved, and we'd all have a very, very clear idea of what's going on and what's going to happen in the future. I know that one video is not going to solve anything, and I'm going to discuss some strategies with you today that maybe you might find useful to your particular circumstance. But my opinion is that really, if you're in this situation, you need to have a multidisciplinary team of experts from different fields, from education, from hospitals, from every social service, from everybody involved, to help you do what you need to do to support your child and help give you the tools and help give you the confidence and make a clear path forward for you. I don't know if I trust that anyone is ever going to get that, no matter what country you're in. So this video is really just a small attempt at discussion and some suggestions for strategies. Obviously, you'll know best whether to put them in place in your individual circumstances or not. But I just thought I would contribute something to this topic, because I think there's really not enough done on it, about it, and for people who are going through it. Autism itself does not equate violence. Violent behaviour and aggression are not traits of autism. There are a number of autistic individuals who show no violence whatsoever. They're very, very gentle. And there are some children and adults who present with quite serious violence and aggression. So what might make an autistic child aggressive or violent? Frustration can be one issue. So, for example, if they're non-verbal, the inability to communicate their needs and wants can lead to frustration, which can lead to aggression or violence. Emotional overload. So let's say, for example, your child's in class or support all day Everyone's being very noisy or something's going on, and they get home and it just erupts over the smallest thing. They want something, so like they want what they want, and like they want it like now. So that can be toys, that can be food, that can be going to a particular place, that can be TV, that can be the iPad. And if you don't produce it fast enough, then, or if you say no, say for example, your child really, really wants to go to the airport and watch the planes. And you're like, well, I have to go to work, or I have to make dinner, or I have to do any other reasonable thing. The result might be quite severe. They can become aggressive or begin hitting if they are in pain, if they are having any kind of issues, maybe they're exhausted. Gastrointestinal issues can be a big thing sometimes, even sometimes if they're bored. Sometimes I've seen kids and like they get into the habit of like hitting themselves even, and then it almost becomes like a stimming habit. They just get so used to it. Genuine upset or genuine fear. So let's say, for example, you know what your day is going to be. It's all planned out. It's very routine, and then something severe happens, and the routine and the day is out of the window, and they are terrified, or something frightens them. Like at Halloween, maybe you're walking down the street, and then suddenly, some stranger without, without any ill intention, turns the corner with a mask on, and your child is frightened. Or something's been cancelled. You say to them, "We're going to go do this," and then suddenly something comes up or it gets cancelled, and they're like, genuine upset. I find sometimes as well is that in my professional practice, so with regards to autism and violence, I have not personally experienced, obviously I've talked to you before in my video why I was making this channel about my sort of experiences with autism across the personal, the professional, the academic, and how I sort of, I can speak about these things. So personally, I have not had experience of autism and violence. Professionally, I have. So I have found that sometimes it's actually, I think the impression I'm getting is like, and this is mainstream school. I'm talking about these experiences I've had, not a special needs school, but like mainstream school. Like they kind of want to see your reaction. They kind of want to see where the boundaries are. They kind of want to see what they can get away with. So, for example, I had a student stab me in the hand with a pencil one day, and then he just looked at me like really intently, like, what are you going to do? Not bothered by it, like, correcting the behavior, but I'm not bothered by it. Another time I had a girl stab me in the arm with a pen. She thought this was funny, but she was also looking at me very closely, sort of like, what are you going to do? How are you going to take this? And again, it's like reinforcing boundaries, reinforcing where the line is that's not appropriate behavior. I had a student try to hit me on the back of the legs once with their crutch. They were on crutches just because they wanted, got the impression they wanted to see if they can get away with it. So there can be a number of reasons as to why an autistic person might display violence or become violent. Sometimes it seems like there's a build-up, and sometimes it just sort of comes out of nowhere. So it can be really, really hard to tell when it's going to happen or what the cause of it is. The big thing I can say to you is that, particularly if you have a young child, a toddler or a young child, or even a young teenager even, don't let this slip just because they're small. Because in a few years, they will grow very quickly. And those small slaps that you're enduring now will be a lot harder. So, what I would say to you, first of all, one suggestion is to get to grips as best you can with what actually is going on with this child's anger. You're going to want to start with an assessment of this child's anger as best you can. And I know it's probably going to be tough because you're trying to live your life and do all the things that you have to do and that you need to do. But just take this as like a mission, a military campaign, just like even try to alleviate the pressure and make a game of it if you have to, like make yourself into a spy to try to get an idea of what is going on. Okay. So what I do is this is very, very simple. Okay. It's just, when is this happening? Is this happening when they're coming home after school? Maybe they're like super stressed from the whole day. Is it happening when they're having stomach issues? Is it happening over objects, like their sibling has something that they want? Who is it happening to? Is it happening repeatedly to a specific person? Is it happening to the family pet? Or is it happening to anybody? Is it happening to classmates? But it's not happening at home. Start trying to ask yourself, figure this out. What is going on here? So when is this happening? Who is this happening to? Why is this happening? Is there an obvious reason? Like, for example, is it the child wants food and they're not getting, maybe they want to go for a takeaway or something, maybe they want to go to McDonald's and you're like, no, I can't afford to go to McDonald's. And is that the reason why? Is it food related? Is it, has someone laughed at them maybe? Maybe they feel a bit embarrassed. Are they tired? So why is it happening? How long does it go on for? Is it easily stopped? Is it a long attack or is it like a quick punch? So is this something that is this something that is possibly just an instant reaction and then they move away because they realize what they've done? Or is it more in-depth aggression? Where is it happening? Is it almost always in certain areas or is it very sporadic? For example, if it's always happening in one room, well, what's going on with that room then? Is there any kind of sensory issues going on in that room? Is there some kind of noise or smell or something that's possibly triggering or setting them off? Or is it happening very sporadically around the house, or is it only happening in school? And then what are they responding to? Does anything make them stop? So, for example, if you know that your autistic child gets very angry, gets violent, if they don't get more time on the iPad, if you give them the iPad, will they stop? Because then what you've also got is you've also possibly identified a problem because, like, right, okay, what makes them stop? Is it you telling them to stop that makes them stop? Or is it you giving them what they want then that's making them stop? Because in that case, you possibly be looking at, okay, we've maybe got into the habit of child becomes angry or violent because we know they want something, we give them what they want, and they get rewarded for the violence. Okay? Is that possibly a trap that you fall into unintentionally? Then what you want to do is you want to do the reverse of those questions. So what I mean is, okay, when is it not happening? Like, for example, if you send your child to their grandparents' house one day a week and or a couple of days a week and nothing is happening at the grandparents' house ever, it's only ever happening in your house. Why is that happening? Why is that the case? Is it possibly the grandparents have different strategies, structure, discipline, possibly that you're not utilizing? Is there any way you can copy that and use it over in your house? What are they not responding to? Is there anything that makes it worse? So, say for example, they become aggressive and then suddenly there's a noise suddenly happens, or the dog barks, or the phone rings and they hate that sound. Does that escalate it then? It's okay, okay, what makes it worse? Can we change this? Can we adjust this? Why is it definitely not happening for? So one of the reasons that we can eliminate it, why is it definitely not happening? So for example, if you know your child's getting a full night's rest, okay, what's not tiredness then? If you know your child's had a good day at school and they haven't been overwhelmed and they're very positive, okay, so it's not school then. Trying to figure out, okay, why is it not happening if you're really stuck as well? For like, why is it happening? Who is it not happening to? Are there certain people that they would just not be aggressive with? And why is that? Is there something in their relationship there? They have a better relationship? Is there something in how they treat each other? What's going on there that makes them they don't get hurt? When is it not happening? Okay. So apart from obviously like if you're giving them what they want, like is it not happening when you're at certain public places? Is it not happening whenever they've just had their breakfast and they're full? When is it not happening? Can be just support to when is happening. And then how does it end? So when it's over, are you able to talk to your child about this? And do they express any remorse or apologies for what they've done? Or is this something like that they don't care? Like they just slouch off and they don't want to talk about it. They get upset if you do bring it up. Because someone who is remorseful or someone who does apologize, potentially they might be more open to seeking help or seeking alternative methods to deal with their anger and their aggression. So here's some strategy suggestions. Obviously, this is just suggestions. You use it if you want to, it's up to you. I don't know your personal circumstances, your individual circumstances, but just you think on these, and if they're helpful, fantastic. So, if the autistic person shouts first, if they have a raised voice, you lower your voice, you lower your tone, okay? You remain calm and you speak clearly. Don't overwhelm them with loads of instructions, just very sentences, short sentences to sort of get through to them clearly. Okay. The reason I'm telling you to lower your tone is because as humans, we have a natural tendency to mirror each other. So, like, imagine, for example, like if someone's telling you a secret or a bit of gossip. Like if they start whispering to you or they lower their tone to keep it confidential, you'll naturally lower yours as well. It's the exact same here. So what you're trying to do is lower the temperature, get them to somewhere where there's calm. If you're speaking normally, but suddenly you're under stress because maybe they've got their hands on you, or maybe they've got you cornered or something, what might happen is that your voice might go higher pitched unintentionally because you're afraid. Or you might raise your voice just because you're sort of in a panic state, you're trying to get more air. I'm not expecting this to be easy for you. I'm just giving you suggestions you can try. And if someone shouts, you lower your voice. If they're shouting and then you shout, it's a fight for dominance on top of everything else. And that's not what you want. Another suggestion is that double check for this person and for yourself that you both have escape routes. Like do like a mental sweep. And what I mean by that is, let's say, for example, your child's like they're having a bad day and they're walking through the house. Maybe a sibling or something is walking behind them. And then suddenly you come up to them and you're talking to them about something. It's like, okay, they can't go forward because you're there. They can't go back because their siblings there. And maybe there's not enough space, or there's a piece of furniture in the way to the right and there's a wall to the left. And suddenly they're boxed in. And that could potentially just set them off without warning. If they suddenly feel, I am boxed in here, I have nowhere else to go. Whenever you're speaking to somebody, might present with aggression, it's always double check mentally, sweep, okay, do they have an exit? Can they go forward? Can they go back? Can they go left? Can they go right? Unobstructed. And do that for yourself as well, okay? So if you feel that something might be building, or if you're just trying to interact, and hope nothing gets set off, always give yourself an exit. If your child moves to hit you or hurt you, get away from them. Get out of the room if you have to. If they pursue you out of the room, get out of the house. Just go stand in the garden, okay? Or go stand somewhere safe. You don't have to sit there and endure abuse. Your life is of equal value. Autism or no autism. Okay, gentle hands. We want to teach them, and I think you can, it's easier I think when they're younger, but again, I think you can try this at any stage. You want to teach them that we want to use gentle hands with people and with things that are important. How do you do that? You use a real example as a teaching method. So let's say a little brother's unwell or grandparent is unwell. Let's say, mummy's pregnant. Let's say we have a family pet, or let's say we're going on a visit to an animal shelter. If they don't like animals, then gardening or figurines, something that matters to them that you want to be good and gentle with. So you want to be there with them and show them, okay, gentle hands. Mommy's got a baby in her tummy, so we touch her softly, softly, okay? Look, we're doing some work in the gardening. This is great and healthy. We have to have very light touches on the flower petals or they might fall off. We're going to see animals in the animal shelter, or we've got a new family pet. We have to treat things very, very gently, okay? And then you show them how to be gentle, and then you get them to do it. And if they're being a little too rough, you say, look, a little lighter, just like this, just like that, a little lighter. And then you praise them. Very good. Gentle hands, that's excellent. Okay, you're doing a really good job. All right. Now, you probably want to do this relatively frequently. Perhaps every couple of days, you'll have a moment between you where it's like, okay, we're going to do gentle hands on the pet, on your sibling, on whatever it is, okay, the new baby. But what you want to do as well is keep your eye out for when they have a non-directed moment of gentleness. And what I mean by that is, let's say, for example, you're in the kitchen making dinner and suddenly you spot your child, and maybe, okay, they don't know you're watching them, or like you're not telling them to do this. They, by their own choice, are using gentle hands on the pet, on the sibling, on the pot of flowers, something like that. Okay, if they have that non-directed moment, that's their choice. It's their spontaneous decision to be gentle. Then you praise that, but you praise it really specifically. So you go over to them, don't leave it. Don't like linger and leave it, because it's best to do this while the action is very, very fresh in their head. So you go over to them and you say, I saw you pet the cat with gentle hands. That was excellent. I'm so pleased with you. And then you elevate it. Okay. So you're better at gentle hands than your big sister, or that's to say, for example, they're 7 years old. That's something that a 9-year-old would do. Elevate it then. Okay, so not only have they made this choice themselves and they've been specifically praised for it, elevate, making it better, not going, that's even greater than I thought you could do, by making it better. Or let's say, I saw you speak very kindly there, you said this, like, use really specific things. I heard you say, do you want to turn with my toy to your sister? Be really specific like that and do it quickly. Don't be leaving it for hours and hours to say to them at the dinner table then, because they've forgotten that moment, or it's a faded memory to them by now. Having that kind of emphasis on their good and positive behavior right away and specifically when you can name it, can have a really, really good reinforcement effect on them. A possible option is getting them into sports. Okay, sports are all about structure and discipline and commitment, and they're very useful. It can be very useful in directing frustration and, like, aggressive energy. Sports are areas that aggressive energy can be really good and really positive if it's directed properly. So an aggressive child, okay, you put them in a sports and maybe they channel that into competition, into competitiveness, okay? And that's good. The sports world is one of those places where aggression is like, yeah, this is really socially acceptable. Okay. And it has the added benefit of tiring them out. So, what kind of sports, if they're very aggressive, possibly something like martial arts, like boxing, like jujitsu, like wrestling. If they're not seriously aggressive, or maybe they're more like kind of, they don't want the big group thing, maybe swimming club, or rock climbing, or even like a running or a rowing, that kind of thing there, where it's smaller groups, even an individual kind of sport. What you might find is that if an autistic individual, you bring them somewhere new, they might crawl under the table and refuse to come out. They might refuse to participate. You might have difficulty getting them out of the house in the first place. But if there's the potential that sports could be a good outlet for your child, a place where they can direct all that aggression in a socially acceptable kind of way, then it might take you going 5, 6, 7 times to get them used to the place. It might take you bringing them there and showing them around, showing them everything, introducing them to the staff. It might take you doing this from their young age. It might take multiple tries for them to get used to it. The potential benefits could be worth it, but that's very much up to you. The other thing I would say as well, this is also a very good, sports is also a very good area for praise, but you don't want to go super heavy into the winning and losing type thing. Like, obviously, yes, praise them when they win and sort of go, well, look, bad luck when they lose. But what a big focus should be is, okay, praise on their commitment, praise their discipline, praise their control, praise their dedication, things like that. Discipline is a brilliant tool. Discipline can be applied really at any age, and it teaches people two main facts of life. One, that there are boundaries in the world, and two, that actions have consequences. This is going to be, again, very individual to your particular situation, but let's say, for example, your child hits their sibling. They go stand in a corner and face the wall for 10 minutes. I don't think that's a big deal. It shows them that that kind of behavior is unacceptable. They don't get to have what they want. There are consequences there. And particularly if you have other children in the house, if those children are seeing you get hurt, or if they're getting hurt, even if they completely understand that their sibling has autism, they're going to want something. They're going to want some kind of perception of justice or fairness or something. You're full of complex feelings because you're the parent, but your other children are also full of complex feelings because they're the sibling and they're getting hurt, or they're watching their parents get hurt. And understanding what autism is and how their sibling is doesn't make those feelings go away. But they need to know that actions have consequences. They need to know they are not going to be rewarded or placated because they are violent towards you or others. So, discipline, having proper set rules in the house. You're not allowed to hit anybody. If you hit somebody, here's the consequences, okay? It's 10 minutes looking at the wall. It's 10 minutes sitting on, a step in the back garden if your garden is secure. It's losing 10 minutes off your iPad privileges, because those things, iPads and phones, are privileges. It's having clear, consistent rules that you have to enforce, and you can't be swayed by them. It's having clear, consistent rules. Things like, right, you have to share, you have to take turns, keep your hands and feet to yourself, you have to be firm, and you have to be consistent. And if your child screams and cries, every child screams and cries. That's nothing new. That's nothing special. You're not going to like it when your child screams and cries, but it is going to stop, right? And you're the adult. You can wait this out. And that's not being nasty, and that's not being horrible or evil. It's just being, look, there is a reality of the world, and it starts here in the home, where you're not allowed to harm other people. And you're doing this for their good, for their safety, because you don't want to live a life in fear. If they're autistic, if your autistic child remains with you, they finish school and they remain with you, you're looking at decades of this behavior, possibly, if you're not already going through it. If your autistic child is able to go out and integrate with the world, but they still have those violent tendencies, they could hurt somebody else, and then they're either going to get hurt or they're going to end up in prison, or worse. So whenever you're hearing them cry, hearing them complain, hearing them demand things, just think, unfortunately, you have to consider the child as a whole. And your child is going to spend the majority of their life as an adult. And you cannot let it get to the point where violence is the norm in your house. Some minor coping strategies for the child themselves. Obviously, you've probably heard of these. It's taking 10 deep breaths, try to control your anger. It's physical activities. Like, okay, if you feel like you're getting angry, you need to go out into the garden and either wait out in the garden, let the cool air hit your face, or if you still feel very angry, run around the garden until the anger all leaks out of you. Scribble books can be something like, for example, it can be, a colouring book, or it can just be a plain blank cheap sketch pad, and just give them some colours, and they can be as aggressive as they want on the paper, just not on you or somebody else. If there are communication issues, possibly having pictures or a word mat where it's like, it's obviously it's got the alphabet on it, and then they just, if they can spell, they could hit the letters and then you spell out exactly what's going on, what they're thinking about, or what they're trying to convey. There are a number of different strategies and things that I could suggest, but there's just a sample of them because, I'm aware it is going to be so individual at home. And possibly one or two things I've said are helpful, possibly nothing I've said is helpful. I wish I could be of more help, but realistically, you need wherever you are, you need a full team of support, not just, one person on YouTube. I am going to touch on this briefly because I know it gets mentioned a lot if there is violence with an autistic child, and that's about residential care or a care facility. There is no right answer there. That has got to be such a personal decision based on what's going on in your lives and what you can tolerate financially if you end up having to pay for it, and what you can tolerate, in your own heart, if you're able to do that. My personal opinion, and I am very against residential care facilities. I'm sure there are good ones. My personal opinion is that we need to give families the tools and the support that they need, the respite that they need, rather than having a child or a teenager or an adult be put into care. My worries would be, you're relying on somebody who's being paid not a good wage, but usually they're not usually good wages, to take care of your child and to treat them well with dignity and respect. And you can't guarantee that. That's just my personal opinion. I mean, we've just had, obviously, here where I live in Northern Ireland, we've just had the report come out on the abuse that was happening in Muckamore, which was a residential hospital for people with autism and learning difficulties. Abuse has been going on there for years. I just think the risk is too big, and I think it can be very scary for the autistic person, particularly, obviously, going in their first job. Then if something happens to the care facility, they need to be moved to other ones or different wards or whatever it is. I think it can be quite scary for them, and I think it's very, very heartbreaking for the family. So I think that has to be a real personal decision. But if you are dealing with violence in your household, I don't think anyone would blame you. Like, I wouldn't blame anyone if that was their decision. I wouldn't think anything badly of them. I wouldn't lose respect for them. It has to be such a personal decision. So this has been a bit of a challenging video to make because I wanted to do it as sensitively as possible, but I also wanted to be very realistic. And potentially because I'm a sibling autistic person as well, and because of all this, I always sort of look at it from the family's perspective too. I hope you get the help that you need. I really do. We'll leave it there for today. If you liked this video, if it was in any way helpful to you, please do subscribe, like the video, comment down below. Take care, and I'll see you again soon. Okay? Bye.